We're looking at the competitive, sometimes dirty business of cigarettes. A Zimbabwean tobacco company, Savanna, has recently appointed Nick Hales as its global chief executive. Savanna has made some inroads in South Africa and Mozambique. It now says it's ready to conquer African and global markets. Savanna has often been at odds with big players like British American Tobacco and Phillip, with accusations flying both ways. Hales, ironically, a former BAT executive. Well, to discuss, we're joined by Nick Hales. Thank you for joining us. Just give me a bit of the history. So you were with British American Tobacco. That is often accused of dirty tricks by Savanna. How come you landed up crossing the floor, if you like?
Okay. I worked for 27 years in the tobacco industry, and my objective was to retire early 50s, which I achieved. My wife and I then moved to our base in Togo, where we decided we'd run a couple of very small businesses and look after a foundation. Then Mr. Adam Malai, my chairman, called me up, and we had a few conversations, and I was caught up in the enthusiasm and the opportunities that Savannah Tobacco have. So I'm back in tobacco and very happy to be back. I'm very proud to be with Savannah Tobacco.
How big is Savanna's market share in Zimbabwe? And there's some talk of inroads in South Africa. I don't know anybody who smokes the main brand, but just tell me about the African expansion and the plans.
Okay. In Zimbabwe, we're fairly modest, between 25 and 30% market share. It has declined slightly over the years, but nevertheless, that's still a meaty share of the market. In South Africa, we are a little bit lower in share, probably less than 5%. I do actually have a packet, if I may, just in case you do see any of your friends.
No, we're not allowed to advertise.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. Pacific. It's called Pacific.
Yes, that's our main brand.
Let's look at these claims and counterclaims, because Savanna itself has been accused of smuggling Pacific, and I actually spoke to SARS. There is no investigation. We have to make that clear. But at one stage, this was being reported in the Sunday Times. SARS saying that it has confiscated many Savanna cigarettes. So this is contraband coming over the border. Is Savanna involved in anything?
Not at all, and we do not condone any smuggling of any type whatsoever.
So these land up in consignments, but you don't know who's taking the consignments?
We go to great lengths to ensure that all export documentation for any of our sales is 100% correct. It is a problem in our industry. Thereafter, it's a little bit difficult to follow. Yeah. For example, there was a news report, I believe, a couple of weeks ago at a border crossing into Botswana, from product from South Africa going into Botswana. I think the crossing is Kopfontein, and the truck was seized with product of a popular international brand here in South Africa going into Botswana. So it happens all over Southern Africa.
I want to read something that Savanna's PR firm sent us, if I can find it, just some of the claims against British American Tobacco. I can't find the exact quote, but there's claims of espionage, tax avoidance, nothing proven in Southern Africa. Again, we must say, although there is a court finding in Russia. When you worked for BAT, is this a dirty business? Some people are opposed to cigarettes, but just give us some insight into what it's like to be in this industry.
If it was a dirty business, I personally wouldn't be in it. It's a contentious industry, that's for sure. You're generally not very welcome at dinner parties if you're a tobacco executive. But my time in British American Tobacco in the regions I worked in, I didn't see any of that happening. However, there has been a recent report of some further allegations in East Africa on a UK TV show outlining corruption and alleged corruption and alleged espionage.
Okay, so it's a contentious business. Then we won't talk about BAT. You say Savanna operating above board. So let's take that on face value. But what's it like to be in this industry when, in South Africa, our health minister would like to clamp down on all advertising, on all branding if he has his way. Even in Southern Africa, we're seeing a pullback. And you say it's an unpopular industry. Do you feel you can sleep well at night?
Yes, I sleep very well at night, thank you. I said it's a contentious industry. Smoking has been contentious since Walter Raleigh first returned to Europe bearing tobacco leaves. The World Health Organization have made it their business, and they've stated very publicly, to stop smoking in the world. Cigarettes and tobacco maintains to be a legal product. And for those people who choose to smoke, it's a very pleasurable experience. My business is the business of giving pleasure to those people who choose to smoke. My job is not only to give them pleasure, but also to try and persuade any smokers to smoke my brand, Pacific.
And there are plans to expand, so you believe that is possible. How does a small local Zimbabwean firm then start to look at expansion in Southern Africa and take on the big guns?
I think we've already taken them on, and we've already seen market share gains. Still a long way to go in Southern Africa, so what we're looking to do is to consolidate our position in Southern Africa. We've already started looking at markets in West Africa and Central Africa. If I may, my experience, I've had over 20 years in the tobacco industry in Africa. So my skill sets and the ambitions of Savanna Tobacco are perfectly aligned. So if you have the brands, if you have the people, and you have the desire to assume a little bit of risk, everything's possible.
Savanna often talks about its disruptive model, and it used small-scale farmers in Zimbabwe rather than the big farmers. Was that out of necessity, or is there a real different business model there?
There's definitely a different business model, but that's the move to small-scale farmers in Zimbabwe was true to the philosophy of our company, which is all about empowerment. So today there's some 90,000 farmers growing tobacco in Zimbabwe, which prior to the advent of contract farming was probably a number less than 100. So we now have 90,000 farmers producing over 2 million kilograms a year. That's slightly short of the peak of the Zimbabwe tobacco industry, but it's not a long way from it.
Okay, so it's kicking into gear.
It's been a fantastic, it's revolutionised tobacco growing in Zimbabwe.
All right, well, we will follow the developments, a very contentious industry often in the news. Thank you for your time, Nick Hales from Savanna Tobacco in Zimbabwe. Let's move back to local news. The recent Skywise